Happy today. I am William Brown. Sorry, from IamWilliamBrown.com. I'm getting all choked up already. This is Disconnect to Connect One Word Conversations. One Word Conversations is a relationship building, self discovery conversation designed to help you look at our language and see how language causes connection and disconnection, because words just don't come with definitions. They come with feelings, emotions, stories, expectations, and a lot of other things that show up. So I believe by having a one-word conversation, we can learn a little bit about ourselves, the person we're speaking to, and we can build our relationship. One More Conversation is brought to you by IamWilliamBrown.com, a place to help you be yourself and live your life. One way that I spotlight what's available at IamWilliamBrown.com is our U cards. Our U cards are in support of the Beyond the Shell book series, the Beyond the Shell, The Journey to Stay You, and the also Beyond the Shell, Finding You Beyond What Protects You. So with that, there are U cards to help you on your journey. And I have picked cards to set the intention for our conversation. So I picked I am seen, you are grateful, and there is no one youer than you. This is the moment where I invite you to share, like, subscribe, ask questions, do what you can to be a part of this conversation, because I really appreciate it. And this has been great. So the word for this morning that we're going to have a conversation around is emergency. And yeah, that's going to be an interesting word for me. Yeah. I'll just say that. It just feels like there are so many things that's important and that's an emergency in my life, and that I'm trying to get some understanding on. So as I do, I will bring in a guest so we can have a conversation. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
This is the moment where I invite my guests to introduce themselves however it feels comfortable to them.
Awesome. Well, thank you, William, and thank you all our listeners this morning. My name is Tina Ginn, and I'm a financial expert, Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer. I'm a best-selling author of a book called In the Blink of an Eye. I'm also an app developer of Your Backup Plan app, and I'm in Vancouver, BC.
Wow. Well, wow. Thank you for being here this morning. So, how does the word emergency land for you?
Well, I think because I am an emergency preparedness coach, I wanted to start off with a quote.
Okay.
And the quote is, "There's no harm in hoping for the best as long as you're prepared for the worst," by Stephen King.
Yeah, I get that.
So in the Oxford Dictionary, emergency is a serious, unexpected, and often dangerous situation requiring immediate action. And according to Wikipedia, an unforeseen combination of circumstances or the resulting state that calls for immediate action. So, in retrospect of emergency comes in all shapes and forms. It might be close to you personally, or it might be in the world that we see today.
Yeah, it's I think for me, emergency shows up as it's like my hair is on fire. That's it. Anything else, I don't, that extreme, right, is not an emergency. And I don't know if it was because of my childhood that, um, it's like sometimes I feel like I'm saying horrible things about my mom. But she was a single parent, but it's like, it's like, don't talk to me unless you're bleeding or something, right? I mean, it's like it had to be like really bad for you need to get my attention. And that wasn't always the case, right? But I mean, but I remember, you know, justifying what an emergency was, right? Or it's like, oh, is this an emergency? I don't think this is an emergency. I don't, and just kind of doing that. And because of that way, for me, there's this comparison of like the worst case scenario, right? But there are so many emergencies in my life that I don't give attention to because I'm looking for the worst case scenario. And I think I miss an opportunity to be present to those things.
So you're actually classifying the emergency in your
Yeah.
head.
Hmm. Yeah. I think that happens for a lot of, hopefully that happens for a lot of people, not just me, right?
I think everyone does, but they all have different degrees. It's kind of like when you're sick,
Right.
you get 10 people, they'll all give you different categories of from 1 to 10.
Right.
But it's probably the same, but some people say just losing your wallet is an emergency.
Right. It's the one thing that I get it. Look, the show, One More Conversations, is to make people aware that people have different definitions, different ways of looking at a particular word, right? So yes, I totally get that a lot of other, one person's emergency is another person's irritation, right? I, you know, I, I totally get that. But I think within a society, within a community or something, there has to be a shared understanding of what an emergency is, and I think many times it feels like there isn't. So um, there's a lot of terrible things that happen, or things that people will get to a place um, that they're at dire straits because there was the emergency before the emergency that was missed. So I'm just, how can we embrace, this was a question that I was thinking about when I was thinking about this conversation, is how can we, asking for a friend, me myself, right? How can I put the urgency back in emergency, right? How can I really do that? Is there anything that you could help? I mean, I think the poem kind of helped with that, but what's the practicality of that?
I think that COVID really the pandemic brought out the word emergency to the forefront for everyone around the world in all shapes and forms. And, even before I started this conversation, I wrote down a few things that COVID did for us, pros and cons
Okay.
of an emergency. Some areas are declared emergency in an emergency state,
Right.
And it comes in all different forms. And being prepared for an emergency, we don't want to be prepared for an emergency. It's like being prepared for something bad.
Right.
So we just don't want to do that because we think nothing's ever going to happen because we're Superman.
Right.
Or two, that we can wait until something does happen.
Right.
So that's always been a dilemma for people because we don't want to talk about it. Just like with COVID, we're all sick of it. We don't want to talk about it. But I did bring up a few of the things that have changed during the emergency time. And it was, our medical changed. How we go to the doctor changed. How we go to the hospital changed. How we're looked after. What are they doing with the bodies afterwards? All our whole medical world changed.
Right.
Our quality of life changed. Our protection, our feeling of being protected changed.
Right.
Our travel changed. You can probably think of some too.
Right. Yeah. I think just how I walk outside has changed, right? How I go to the store changes. I have noticed that there have been times when I don't want to say I'm mindlessly doing something, right? But I'm in the car and then I'm getting out because I have to go to the store for something. I know when that's a mindless activity because I get halfway to the door of the store and realize, oh crap, I don't have my mask. It's like, turn around. And it's like, so what has changed for me is that I'm very intentional before I leave my car, right? It's like, I don't just go places. And it's like, I'm very intentional before I leave the house. I would hate to think that, that I don't want to say that I wasn't, right? Maybe that's it. But there was a lot of things that I felt that, hey, I don't have to think about this anymore, right? And I think COVID has changed that you really look. I hardly ever touched banisters and handles and all that other kind of stuff. Yeah, right. Yeah, and I hardly ever do that. I would open things with my arm or something like that. It's just I don't want to say I didn't believe people were washing their hands before. I don't know. I just it just yeah. That was type of way. But now I am very aware. I'm hyper aware of what I'm touching, where I am, and I think that's changed. Is that, and I think for me, emergency. The reason why I put a grade on it is because I don't want to be in this hyper state all the time. If I am in this state of emergency, then I'm like on edge.
Yeah.
And it's, they say the state of emergency, right? Or something like that, that people, there's this hypersensitive. And I think the reason why for me urgency has left is because I don't want to say it was like the boy that cried wolf, that there was a lot of things that people said were emergencies that really weren't emergencies. It was just like, something that someone thought was very important and you kind of put yourself in. So yeah. And I think now it's almost like our alerts, right? I ignore more alerts than I look at. And I think, yes, most of my alerts are emails and, and like meaningless type of thing. But just the word alert is like alerting you to something, right? Notification, and so it's like just using that language causes this reaction. But now, because we realize that those quote unquote alerts are really not alerts, they're just irritations. Now everything is an irritation and we miss the emergencies. I don't know if that made sense.
I think in summary, it's because we've all gotten so used to it and we're sick of it now.
Right.
So we lowered our scale down to down here now instead of was up here at the beginning. But the part that I hate the most is when I go for a run and you're running down the sidewalk and people coming towards you will go onto the road. You
Right.
just you just feel like you have like this disease or something.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's just this horrible feeling.
Right. And it feels like people I'm trying to see if I was going to say this. People feel that you're a suspect, right? That we are everyone's contagious. Everyone, everyone has um, the coronavirus, and they don't know it, and so I need to be this hyper alert because it's an emergency and all that other kind of stuff. And it's just um, there has to be um, a balance or a fine line between recognizing that this is important, recognizing that safety is yeah, is something to be concerned about. And the other place of we still need each other.
Mhm.
We don't want to feel like we're piranhas, right?
Yeah.
Our it's just that type of thing. I think the one thing, even though um, I felt like I wasn't a hugger.
Yeah.
It's like I could like deal with it every once in a while, right? It's like, hell yeah, I haven't seen you in a while. All right, well, we'll hug. But it wasn't like my like first move, right? I would rather shake your hand than and even that is not good in this time. But now it's like, just I can't remember the last time I hugged someone, not my wife, and it is just like,
Well,
wow.
this is a double dose for me because I am a hugger.
Oh boy.
And I don't think I've hugged someone for at least, must be 2 years now.
Wow. So how does
Hey,
that
that's
show?
an emergency.
It's not the emergency. I need to hug somebody, right? It's like and it's like, oh boy, that's and that's something. I think that is the things that is the thing about, I guess, emergency um for each other. We really don't know that. I don't know if the word is the breaking point or the and point where it is dire, right? It is something. And like, I'm not trying to be funny or anything because I think it's important, but at what point are you just going to say, like, you know what? I'm going to hug somebody today, right? You're right. It's like whoever gets it, right? The UPS guy, right? Right? Whoever,
I
I
guess
am
I thought that
sorry, right?
first.
Yeah, I've reached my breaking point.
Yeah,
2 years. That's
that's
enough, right? Right.
everybody I see today gets a hug.
Right. So, but it's that type of thing. Where is that place that we can identify and recognize and make a difference when it really is, an emergency.
Well, to some people, that would be an emergency.
Hmm.
If you're
Yeah.
depressed and
Right.
have anxiety, and that might be something that you need that interaction for.
Right.
Um, but I wanted to talk about emergencies in the United States, for example. If you live in an area of tornadoes and hurricanes,
Right.
you know what an emergency is.
Hmm.
I've been in Florida when there was hurricane 2 years ago, and you have a perfect emergency preparedness plan on the highway systems, and
Right.
you have it down pat. But look at other areas that aren't ready for floods or down mudslides or anything like that. They
Right.
don't have a plan.
Right. It's the point that it comes up in my coaching a lot. It's like, it's not a problem until it's a problem, right? And you work in IT too. That's it's like everything's fine until it's not fine. And I think most of the plans, emergency plans that we have is because they were caught without a plan, right? And then now we need a plan, right? And so, and that's why I appreciated, the poem that you started with, is that recognition that, what, everything probably will go well, right? It's great to think that everything will go well. However, you know, plan as if it's not going to go well.
Yeah.
And really see how you show up. You can show up to your life that way. If, there are times in my house where we have like an overwhelming amount of band-aids to no band-aids, right? Right? I mean, it's like, it's like, that last, the last band-aid that was used, and was like, oh, okay, I guess we're out of band-aids, and that's just it, right? And so we're never going to get another cut, until we get another cut, and then it's like, damn it, we got to go get more band-aids, right? And I think that's how, I don't know if we're conditioned to live that way. But I mean, a lot of your work is helping people, I guess, not live that way, right? Right?
Yes.
What's the biggest challenge with that?
People think nothing's going to happen. Men especially, men think they're Superman and nothing's going to happen. Right. And I'm divorced now, but with my ex years back, for a New Year's resolution, because I always look at the emergency type of mentality in my head all the time. What is the risk? He asked me, what's your New Year's resolution this year? And I said, well, your New Year's resolution is getting fixed and getting a will done.
Wow.
So that was my emergency preparedness.
Wow. How was that received, right?
Well, he did laugh.
So go ahead.
So there you go. That was my emergency preparedness plan for someone. Not even, well, yeah, I guess it influences me, but
right.
But you have to take charge of women are like birds. We want to nest and we want to know it's secure. And if we feel that it's not secure, we want to put it in balance because we just don't feel safe. Whereas men feel that they're okay, nothing's going to happen, and that it will all work out. Kind of, we're got these muscles, and we can do it. But it doesn't work, because until something happens, and for all our listeners out there, something will happen.
Right.
At some point. Some of us more than what we'd like.
Right.
Some of us just maybe one emergency. But in all facts, we have to be prepared for that. And do we want to hurt those people around us? Because the emergency could impact us personally, or it could be an impact against the family or friends.
Right.
So it's how we respond to the emergency. It's how we when someone passes away, people don't even know what to say.
Right.
What is the right thing to say in an emergency without feeling stupid or awkward?
Right.
So those are all things that people try to avoid. I don't.
I'm just so fascinated by that. I don't know why it just came to my mind. It's like, if there's one thing that's constant, is people die, right? Right. and we still have no way of like communicating what that it's like we're so disconnected from that reality,
Mhm.
that that emergency, that that way of being, that part of life, and we still can't have conversations about it. And that's just, I don't know why, that I just thought that was something. It's not like it's a, well, look, it can be a surprise when it happens, right? And even when we know, or when we're given an idea, it's still a shock, right? It's still, it's still something. The one thing that I had a shop teacher tell me um, about things happening, right, is that he would say, if it moves, it breaks. If it moves, it's going to break. So the reason why you're in shop is to learn how to fix it when it breaks, right? And it's like, and it's like, that's it shows up in my life and it doesn't. And when you were talking, I remembered him saying that, because emergencies are going to come up in your life. And the more that we are prepared and recognize that we might not know, we might not have everything on our plan,
Mhm.
but if we can have some things, or just be aware that there's a possibility that something can go wrong here,
Mhm.
um, then we can show up to that.
Well, the other problem I found is that once you realize that it would be good to do that, what is it you do? What,
Mm,
do I know what to get together? Do I know what to put together? It's all of those things. And that's what I created, was under that real impact of something occurring.
right.
So if something happened to your house, there's house insurance, and there's, everything's in the app. So you can do as many categories as you want. Where are your bank accounts? The biggest um, unclaimed money in the United States, Canada, UK, and Australia. It keeps growing because family members don't know where people's accounts are. They could be
Wow.
digital accounts now. It's made it even more complicated.
Wow.
So, in the case of an emergency, I've put together everything all in one place.
Right.
So, you are prepared for any circumstance that comes up, or life storm, as I like to call it,
Hmm.
uh, because we need to be prepared for the unexpected.
I think the one thing that I really appreciate, and we're going to put it in the comment section, your information for your app, and some of the things that you're doing, is that my conversation is self-awareness, right? I'm a coach of self-awareness. Have you live your life, right? With emphasis on what that means. And what just showed up for me off the screen from your title, it's your backup plan. Understanding what you need to keep going, to keep moving, to keep moving forward. And I think the more people get aware of their needs, their wants, their desires, or what they even have in their life. I mean, there is, if something would like and this, yeah, I need your app for this. If something would happen in my head, I don't know half the crap I have. I just moved here in November, and it's like I have no idea, not what's important, what I need, or where everything is. I know I got stuff, right? I got things, or there all that other kind of stuff, because lights are on and all that. There's a lot of there's some connection somewhere, but to really have a place where this is my plan if something goes down, if I'm in an accident, god forbid, that my wife knows how to get in touch with all the other things. Look, I don't know about you, but i I haven't memorized a phone number since I
Mhm.
was in my 20s, right? I mean, you know and it's like, now it is like name, push, and that's, and it happens, or I just say call,
Yeah.
someone. And so really, there's a lot of important people in my life that if something would happen to me, nobody would know. I wouldn't be able to communicate with them, especially if I lose my phone or something like that, or something. And so really having that plan, just in case, believing that, and that's where I have been, believing that everything is going to work out and believing that things cannot work out is a place where you can have your planning. So you can.
I'll take it one step further for you, William.
Okay.
Because the reason why I felt it was so important in an emergency, how do people react? You react under fear, anxiety, adrenaline. You forget things. You don't really have a real sense of what you're supposed to be doing or not doing. It's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone is, it could be sickness, it could be injury, it could be a coma, it could be death. But when someone is dying beside you, you want to be present.
Right.
You want to be there. You want to be able to talk to each other in whatever form that looks like. You want to be able to hold their hand and touch them and be there for that person.
Right.
And when you're not able to do that because you're worried about all the other crap that person has now created for you because you don't know where anything is.
Right.
You can't be there. You can't be present.
Right.
And you're going to regret it after, because we always regret. I wish I would have been able to spend more time with that person.
Right.
I wish I would have said this to them. I wish I would have done that. I wish.
Right.
So being better prepared allows you to take that stress and say, it's all looked after.
Right.
It's all looked after. Now I can be present in that emergency. Now I can just concentrate on getting that person better.
Right.
Wow. It's love that gets the person better.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a part of your marketing, but that is right there. Get present, in emergencies. This is a tool that helps you do that. I can totally get that, because there are so many things. I'm one of those people that have been lucky enough that I haven't been in a lot of major things, right? But I can remember in those moments that I don't know where the hell I was. I wasn't present, because there was so many emotions that I was dealing with. There's so many other things. And if I would have been able to just be in that moment, then I don't want to say things could have been different, or something could have happened. But I mean, that moment is gone now, right? And I think there are so many moments that get away from us because we're not present to it. And especially if something that you weren't planning for. Every time I talk about planning, the quote attributed to Mike Tyson comes up, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face, right? And I think, sometimes when I hear that, it's like, okay, don't plan, right? Right? That's what, that's what goes in my mind, right? It's like, hey, it doesn't matter, because I'm going to get punched in the face and I'm going to have to do something else, right? So, or I get like consumed with the punch, right? Then I'm like planning, okay, if this punch happens, or what if they punch me in the leg? It's like, dude, right? It's like, now where are you? So it is like, how can I stay present and, believe that it was succinctly done in the poem, is that believe that everything will work out, but plan that it won't, right? That really, I mean, that's what I got from it. So that's my paraphrase, but I mean, it's that type of thing. And I think too often, I am, I'll use myself. I will say I can only hold space for one thing. And so I have to be positive. I have to think that this is going to work out. I have to kind of, that's the only thing that I'm going to give energy to or headspace to. And then when it doesn't, then I beat myself up about it.
Right.
Right. Because, oh, I should have known, I should have all this other kind of stuff. And then that's, now I'm still not present.
Right.
Right. And so it's just that cycle, of that. So,
Like
yeah.
one emergency that comes to my mind is like Aunt Sally passes away unexpectedly in
Hmm.
her chair in her condo.
Hmm.
Well, that emergency, when the Aunt Sally's actually in the bed in the hospital, everybody's around her. There are some people that are thinking, how do I get into her condo?
Hmm.
How do we deal with what's in her condo?
Right.
We know what bills she has to pay, what her electricity bill is, what her heat bill is, what her mortgage or rent is. So
Right.
now all of a sudden we're not getting mail come through the slot anymore to be
Right.
able to see it. It's all digital now.
Right.
So where are her accounts? How are we going to bury her? What are we going to do? These are all the things that are now muddling and clouding the ultimate time that you need to actually spend
Right.
with the person. So
As we wrap up here, I guess the question that's coming up for me is how often shall we update our backup plan? How often should we look at those? Because I don't want to obsess over it. That's like I said, speaking for a friend. But how often should we look at our plan?
So there's 12 components. There's the part that really is only used maybe on a weekly basis is
Hmm.
your medical section, because you might be going to the doctor and you can punch in your phone, I'm going to the doctor so and so for I have a cough. And then you come out of the doctor's office and you put down what he said, or if you need a test, or you take a picture of the prescription. And now everything is getting logged
Hmm.
just by your one little medical visit.
Right.
Because I found, people don't even know where they had their last surgery. They can't remember.
Right.
Or, they have no clear idea of what their own medical health records are.
Right. Wow.
So that's a part of it. So that's probably the most used component. The
Hmm.
other parts, like your house insurance, once you put it in, it will notify you when it comes up for renewal a month beforehand, and it will say, hey, William, your home insurance has come up for renewal. Do you want another quote?
Right.
That type of thing. So it will notify you as you put the stuff into the program.
Right. Wow. Yeah. I'm just like I said, I'm thinking of all these things, all these things. It's like, okay, where can I need to put my plan together. And it's like, um, backup plan. I don't know if it's the neighborhood that I grew up in or not. It's like I'm up to something and I need a backup plan to kind of, to kind of cover my behind or type of thing. And so I'm sure that's not how people really think of. It's more about taking care of and protecting, things that are important. But it's like I said, it's just occurring to me as okay, there's something shiesty up, so I need to backup plan to kind of to get out of that. So maybe that says maybe that's more about me than anything else, right? But we could talk about this for hours. It seems like. But what has come up for you within this conversation that you want to leave everyone with?
I want everyone to realize that it's not bad luck to plan
mm,
in
mm,
whatever shape or form that is for you for an emergency. You know, losing your wallet and not knowing what's in your wallet in a
mm,
lot of cases is an emergency. Having your house burned down in a wildfire emergency, COVID emergency, you know, all of these different things, losing your passport on when you're over in Europe or whatever that looks like.
mm,
We will cover life storms for the unexpected. And that was my main goal so that it can alleviate the stress and the worry and have you have a relationship with those around you instead.
mm.
Because when we're lying in bed, we're not thinking about
Right.
um, the emergency. We're thinking about love and we're
Mm,
thinking about um, how much you love the person or how much you cared about the person
right.
or what can you do to help the person.
Right.
So
Wow. Hmm. Yeah, it's all about our relationships, right? It's all about who we're with. Thank you very much. This has been great. It's like a sobering conversation. It's like, let's grow up and protect the things that are important,
yes,
right?
but we
It's
don't know how. So
right, right,
I show you how that
right.
can.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I would love to say our goodbyes within the green room, but this has been great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, emergencies. I think, like I said, I was concerned about having this conversation because the franticness of emergency, the loudness of the emergency vehicles and all that other kind of stuff to kind of do that. And it's like that hyper place of awareness, alertness that is just like, I'm just fatigued with that. But there's so many lessons. There's so many lessons that emergencies are teaching us. And the lesson before the emergency is our planning, our protecting. Believe that everything is going to go fine or go well, but plan that it won't. And you may not be able to stop emergencies from happening, but you'll have a good plan to get through it. And I think the more that you're able to get through it, the more you're able to be present to it. Um, and I think that's what we want. So I hope this conversation has brought value to you, not just to your day, but to your life. I invite you to reach out to me at iamwilliambrown.com, or you can look at my calendar link. You know what? I need to stop saying that because I always say it wrong. You can have a complimentary coaching session, where I can help you be yourself and live your life. Because the world wants you, the world needs you, but the world isn't waiting for you. So go be you. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you tomorrow on One Word Conversations.